I think my title was so alluring, that we have such a turnout. Said how to make friends and be happy. Wow, I got to go to that one. So either you guys are really friendless or... But this evening we come to our last lesson from Lewis. I think it's been fun, and I hope you've had fun. I've enjoyed writing these and thinking through these, and I've enjoyed Don and Jacob's contribution as well. And so, this evening we'll close with a topic on friendship. Again, I've entitled my talk, How to Win Friends and Be Happy. Lewis had a lot to say about happiness. In fact, a lot of my talks had to do with joy and happiness. We saw that in the Great Divorce. We saw that in Transposition. And he also had a lot to say about friendship. And we've mentioned a couple times over the last few weeks the Inklings. Right? The Inklings were a group of friends that proved influential in Lewis's life, as well as on English literature in the 20th century. So who made up the group called the Inklings? Do you guys know anybody who's involved in that group? Charles Williams. Tolkien, yep. Lewis. Owen Barfield, Owen Barfield. And also Lewis's, I think, older brother, Warnie. Warnie Lewis was also involved in that group. It wasn't, some formal group with a bunch of rules or officers or anything like that, but it was a gathering of genuine friends who had a shared interest in literature, in myth, in the Christian tradition, and narrative, and those kinds of things. They would meet twice a week in the 1930s and the 1940s, and around Oxford, the area of Oxford. They would meet in an English pub called Eagle and Child. Does anybody know if this pub still exists? Yeah, have you guys been to this pub? Yeah, Stephen? Oh, really? Is it worth going to? Is there their seats reserved and thou shalt not sit here?
They're all worth going.
Yeah, they're all worth going. Well, we'll have to make a trip to England. So they would go to Eagle and Child and also meet at Magdalen College where Lewis was at. They would read their manuscripts aloud, offer feedback, and often very honest critique of one another's works. And what became of this group? Well, from this group came some of the most influential fantasy and theological works of the 20th century. Right? Certainly Lord of the Rings and Narnia satisfy that. And mostly, these works were penned by Lewis and Tolkien. But the other men, I know they wrote other things, and they would quote them in their own works. Lewis certainly would. And also their criticisms and their friendships, provided a lot of feedback to their work. So at one level or some level or another, they contributed to the works of the 20th century. Now, this group of friends also shaped how Lewis thought of friendship. Because of the depth of these friendships and the close bonds that they held, the genuine affection that they had between them, Lewis got to think a lot about friendship, and it refined, what is this gift that God has given us? What is good about it? What is the nature of it? It is very significant. It's a very significant theme throughout his works. It's included in one of his books called The Four Loves. Right? It's one of those four loves, friendship. In fact, in Lewis's view, friendship is the most heavenly love. It's the most spiritual kind of love that exists among mankind. It's also found throughout the Screwtape Letters, as well as in the Ransom trilogy and the Chronicles of Narnia, obviously. They're a bunch of friends that go about their business, family, but also friends that go on these adventures together. And he also gave an address, a talk that was delivered, I believe, at a university graduation. I'm not sure exactly the setting, but I gather that it was from a university graduation setting. And that address is included in this collection of talks. I've mentioned this before when I talked on transposition. That talk is in here. And also a talk called The Inner Ring. The Inner Ring is in here, and this is a significant talk that he gave in reflecting on what I'm going to call the shadow of friendship. But it's a wonderful, wonderful talk. I'll draw from it this evening and encourage you to go find it too. I think it's about $12 on Amazon right now, this book. So, hey, it's worth your while. There's a lot of wonderful talks in it. So friendship is significant. It was significant in Lewis's own personal experience in his literary creations, and it became significant for his reflections. So in unpacking this lesson from Lewis on friendship, I want to address two parts of it. I want to address the shadow of friendship, and then also the substance of friendship. There is this empty thing that we are tempted to call friendship, but which is really just its dark shadow, right? So it's a facade, it's not a real thing. And then there's the real thing, right? And my counsel, as I'll get to, is to avoid like the plague, right? The shadow, the false thing, and pursue, as God gives you opportunity, the substance, right? Pursue the real thing called friendship. So I want to begin with what I've called the shadow of friendship, what Lewis refers to as the inner ring, right? That's his name for it. And in his address at the graduation, his chief purpose is to persuade these young men away from this passion for the inner ring. And he has lots of good counsel on that. He would seek to persuade them away from it, or else, if you don't crucify it, he would say, you are in for a world of heartache, right? And at the end of the day, it'll not only break your heart, but also you'll be a scoundrel, right? So it won't satisfy you, and also you won't be the better for it. In Lewis's words, this is one quote from The Inner Ring. He says, "The quest of the inner ring will break your hearts unless you break it," right? And again, he says, of all passions, the passion for the inner ring is most skillful in making a man who is not yet a very bad man do very bad things. Okay? The passion, this passion, it will be the making, as he says, of unscrupulous, treacherous, ruthless egoists. And I quoted from that in last week's sermon, right? Think Haman, right? Haman is an inner ringer. So what is this inner ring? What is this shadow of friendship? Let me read to you from his essay. This is how he describes it. He says, "I believe that in all men's lives at certain periods, and in many men's lives at all periods, between infancy and extreme old age, one of the most dominant elements is the desire to be inside the local ring and the terror of being left outside. This desire in one of its forms has indeed had ample justice done to it in literature. I mean in the form of snobbery. Victorian fiction is full of characters who are hag-ridden by the desire to get inside that particular ring, which is, or was, called society. But it must be clearly understood that society, in that sense of the word, is merely one of 100 rings, and snobbery, therefore, only one form of the longing to be inside. People who believe themselves to be free, and indeed are free from snobbery, or from the desire to be in society, and who read satires on snobbery with tranquil superiority, may be devoured by the desire in another form. It may be the very intensity of their desire to enter some quite different ring which renders them immune from the allurements of high life. An invitation from a duchess would be very cold comfort to a man smarting under the sense of exclusion from some artistic or communist community. Poor man, it is not large lighted rooms or champagne or even scandals about peers and cabinet ministers that he wants. It is the sacred little attic or studio, the heads bent together, the fog of tobacco smoke, and the delicious knowledge that we 4 or 5, all huddled beside this stove, are the people who know." Right? It doesn't take on, just one form. It takes on all these different kinds of forms. Just what kind of inner ring do you want to be a part of? Do you crave to be a part of, and are you afraid of being left out of? A few things to notice on this description. Notice Lewis's emphasis on desire. Right? One of the most dominant elements is the desire. Right? Is the desire to be inside the local ring and the terror of being left outside of it. Right? Some that escape the allurement of one inner ring may be devoured by the desire for it in another form. It is not the fact that there are inner rings. That's not what Lewis criticizes, that there are. It is not the fact that groups of people exist. In fact, Lewis acknowledges that the mere existence of inner rings is not an evil. In fact, it is certainly unavoidable. Right? He says, there must be confidential discussions And it is not only not a bad thing, it is in itself a good thing that personal friendships should grow between those who work together. Right? But here's the catch, right? Lewis's words, but the desire which draws us into inner rings is another matter. A thing may be morally neutral, and the desire for that thing may be dangerous. Let inner rings, he says, be an unavoidable and even an innocent feature of life, though certainly not a beautiful one. But what of our longing to enter them and our anguish when we are excluded, and the kind of pleasure we feel when we finally get in? Right? That terror of being left out, that pleasure of, oh, I'm in, you're not. Right? That secret pleasure. So here again, he gives us this contrast, a contrast between the innocent and natural reality of inner rings on the one hand, and the corruption of it on the other hand. So this is again drawing from the talk, or from his address. Let's see. He says, in any wholesome group, right, any good group of people, which holds together for a good purpose, the exclusions are in a sense accidental. Right? 3 or 4 people who are together for the sake of some piece of work exclude others because there is work only for so many, or because the others can't in fact do it. Your little musical group limits its number because the rooms they meet in are only so big. But your genuine inner ring, right, in contrast to that, your genuine inner ring exists for exclusion. Right? There would be no fun if there were no outsiders. The invisible line would have no meaning unless most people were on the wrong side of it. Right? Exclusion is no accident. It is the essence. Right? It is the essence of the inner ring. So again, the evil lies not in the existence of groups of friends. That's inevitable. Not at all. The evil and the corrupting influence is found in our craving to be in. Right? In on the inside, to be thought of as one of those who are in the know. Right, who are popular, or who are in that clique. A desire to be thought in that way, and then also the delight in excluding others. At that point, you have become, right, a clique. You have become a cult. You have become a gang. Right? All those words become applicable. Again, as Lewis writes, he says, of all the passions, the passion for the inner ring, right, to be on the inside, is most skillful in making a man who is not yet a very bad man do very bad things. So this is the shadow of friendship. Dun, dun, dun. It is this craving, right, to be on the inside, and the willingness to do anything to get in and then to stay in. Right? You always have to do more to stay in after you've passed the first test. But in order to get in, and then in order to stay in, you are drawn into all kinds of evil things, right? Often subtly evil things. You twist the truth, you take a bribe, you give kickbacks, right? You look the other way so that another guy who's further in than you can get away with what he's doing. And then, of course, all the sneers and snide smiles and condescending manners to those who are on the outside. Or you could just take a Martin Scorsese Italian mafia movie, right? The mafia is or fraternity, right? You have to do certain things in order to get in, and then you have to do more things to be able to stay in, and also not to get killed, because you can't leave the mafia. You get your legs breaking. So Jacob quoted from the Screwtape Letters a few weeks ago, and I want to repeat that quote. We have to hear that quote with this in the background, right? This idea of the inner ring certainly would have been in the background of what Lewis writes in the Screwtape Letters. So this quote will be familiar, but listen to it again, but with this inner ring idea behind the scenes. He says, the greatest evil is not now done in those sordid dens of crime that Charles Dickens, loved to paint. It is not done even in concentration camps or labor camps. In those we see its final result, but it is conceived and ordered, moved, seconded, carried, and minuted in clean, carpeted, warmed, and well-lidded offices by quiet men with white collars and cut fingernails and smooth-shaven cheeks who do not need to raise their voices. Right? He is here speaking of those men who are not yet very bad doing very bad things. Right? It's just, you're in the inner ring. Right? My boss, or that guy's told me to do this, so I'm gonna do that. And meanwhile, you're just continuing to do wicked things. Very bad men who are aspiring to get into the ring and then stay in the ring and push further and further into that inner ring, because there's always a more inner ring. In this case, it is the opposite of Lewis's other phrase, right? Further up and further in. The further up and further in of Narnia, the further up and further in that we saw with the Great Divorce. This is the opposite of that. In that case, what happens as you go further up and further in? Everything becomes more expansive, right? More glorious. Everything becomes more solid, more true. But here, right, the inn, Lewis gives the analogy, the inn is like that of peeling an onion, right? For each inner ring has yet another inner ring, until ultimately you're left with what? What happens when you peel an onion? What are you left with? Nothing. There's nothing there's no seeds. There's nothing at the core, right? There's nothing there. It's empty at the center. It gets narrower and narrower and narrower until you're left with just yourself, right? Now you're the only one in, and you're excluded from everybody else, apparently, or you're just mad. So there's nothing at the center of the innermost ring, just you, right? And only at this point, right, you've now changed. In the process of pushing further and further in, you've just become the unscrupulous, treacherous, ruthless egoist that Lewis warns us against. I titled my talk, How to Win Friends and Be Happy. As many of you, I'm sure, recognize, that's a riff off a popular book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've never read that book. I wouldn't necessarily judge it by its title, but I kind of want to. Right? If I were to judge it by its title, that book is the exact book that Lewis would warn us against. Right? Using friendship as a means to get somewhere. Right? Using people as a stepping stone to more. Right, to more influence, to climbing the ladder, right, to get further and further up and in. That is a corruption of friendship. Right? It's its shadow. It's not the substance. And maybe it is much better than that. But when I heard that title, I'm like, oh, okay. It's the opposite of that. Okay, so now that we have a clear idea of the danger of the shadow of this inner ring, this empty facade, let us now consider the substance, right, of what actual friendship looks like. Friendship, as Lewis understood it, and I would agree with him here, says friendship is centered on a similar pursuit. Right? It is centered on similar interests or shared interests. He contrasts it with eros. Eros would be romantic love, right? Love between a husband and a wife, right? Lovers are normally face-to-face, right? Absorbed in one another. Friends, on the other hand, friends are side by side, right? Absorbed in some common interest. Their eyes are looking ahead, right? Towards something. Friendship centers on the question, do you see the same truth? Right? Do you see the same truth? Do you care about the same truth? To that question, some simply cannot see it. They do not see the same truth. They're on a different page. They don't see it. Or if they do see it, they just don't even care about it. Right? That's not very interesting to me, right? In that case, no friendship can arise in that kind of setting. Friendship has to be about something. For if about nothing, friendship has to be about something, for even if it were nothing more than an enthusiasm for gardening, right, or bird watching, or white mice, it has to be about something. You have to be looking at something. It can't just be facing one another. It can't be based off nothing. It has to be about something. As a wonderful example of the heavenliness, I mentioned that he thinks that friendship is the most heavenly of the loves, most spiritual of the loves, and Lewis gives us this image of the seraphim praising the Lord. Right? So in Isaiah 6, Isaiah is brought into the temple of the Lord. He sees the Lord high and lifted up. The whole temple is filled with his glory. The train of his robe fills the temple. And above Isaiah, as he's looking at this, stood or flew two seraphim, right? Each had 6 wings, Isaiah tells us. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covers his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." Right? That for Lewis is a picture of the heavenliness of friendship. Now, how do you think that is a picture of friendship? Curious. You have that image. How does that picture friendship? Yeah, my wife.
One calling to another, they're talking to each other, but their eyes are on God.
Yeah, she overheard me talking, practicing. Yeah. I mean, they're facing the same object, right? Capital O, the object of all glory, the source of all goodness. They're beholding Him. They're praising Him, and they're praising Him, right, to one another. They're calling out to one another, saying, "Look how glorious He is! How awesome is He!" And they get to praise Him together, right? They are praising the Lord to one another, and that's a picture of friendship. Right? You see something that is wonderful and beautiful, and you're engaged in pursuing that together. So they are centered on the same object, consumed with the same interest, and with the same truth, and they speak to one another. They meet in groups together to talk about it, right? To study it, to write poetry about it, to write stories about it, to pursue it, right? That is friendship as Lewis understands it. The world is charged with the grandeur of God, right? It flames out in all kinds of ways. We catch these glimpses of His goodness, of His glory, and we are drawn in to see more. We are brought further up and further into the goodness of His world, searching out His glory. And this is an echo of a proverb, Proverbs 25, verse 2. It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings to search things out. Right? God has woven into His world great mysteries, and we are given the opportunity, as a kingdom of priests, we are given the opportunity to search those glories out. And sometimes, even often, in searching the glories of God out in this creation, along our journey, we find others who see the same truth, right? Who are captivated by the same glimpse. And then bam, right? You have a friend, right? You have someone who can pursue that together. You have a fellow traveler, a fellow inkling who is interested in medieval literature, who is interested in Christian tradition, a friend also drawn to hiking, right? Or photography, or snakes, or 19th century German Romanticism. Are there any out there? I wrote 2 theses on 19th century German Romanticism, so I'll be your friend. No, none of us. There's not many of us. Anyways, that is the making, right? That is the making of friendship, even of a ring of friends. Suddenly, like in pursuing something that is glorious and beautiful, suddenly you're in a ring, right? Suddenly you're in a group. And that ring exists because it is centered on something that actually has substance. It is not an onion, right? Rather, it's like the planets revolving around the sun. Right? There's this force at the center, this gravitational pull that is drawing us together because it draws us toward something, right? It pulls us toward something. And in fact, as the medievals understood it, they had a much better conception of physics than we do. That force is not gravity. Right? Does anybody know what that force was called by the medievals? Anybody?
Kindly inclining?
What's that?
Was it the kindly inclining?
I don't know. I don't think so. I had a different answer. It's love. Kindly, maybe it's related. But love was the force that drew us together. This is from Dante. But my desire, he writes in Paradiso, but my desire and will were being turned like a wheel all at one speed by the love that moves the sun and the stars. Right? Love is the thing that moves everything together. It's this desire and movement. Again, from Boethius, right? All these are firmly bound by love, which rules both earth and sea and has its empire in the heavens too. Right? So love makes the world go round. Right? Not sure where that originated, but there's truth to that. Right? Love draws the planets towards something. Love draws men and women towards something, and it creates those friendships that then, okay, we see the same truth, we have the same love, and we're moving in the same direction. So that is actual friendship. That is the substance of friendship in contrast to the shadow of the inner ring. Now I want to circle back to the title of my talk. Right? It is a promise. I set out to give a lesson on how to win friends and be happy, and that's why all of you are here. And so I need to give some application. You say, tell me. So I have 3 points of application drawn from Lewis's teachings. So how do you win friends and be happy? Well, first, right, to begin with, conquer the fear of being an outsider, or an outsider you will remain. Right? Conquer the fear of being an outsider, or an outsider you will remain. Put to death the craving to be on the inside, as well as that secret delight that you take in excluding others. Right? Put that to death. That does not bear good fruit. If you don't, right, this will only leave you frustrated, since there's always, again, an inner ring until it's just you. Right? And then the trick's up, and it will make you, the trick's up, but then you'll just be a crook. Right? You'll be insufferable. You'll have been corrupted. So give up the need to be in and the imaginary terror of being excluded. In other words, give up FOMO. Right? My wife had to tell me what this meant. What does FOMO mean? Fear of missing out. Just give it up. Put it to death. You're not missing out. They're missing out because they're not your friend. No. Life is too full of good stuff, right? Of good things to mind much, what everyone else is doing and all the other inner rings that are going on. Just give up that. Put that to death. That's not necessary. Lewis describes it in this way, that we're to give up the whole pell-mell of struggle, competition, confusion, graft, disappointment, and advertisement that belongs to the inner ringers. It's just not worth it. So that's the first thing. Secondly, right, be about something. Right, be about something. Be interested. Be engaged in the world that God has made. Have eyes to see the grandeur of God that flames out from His world in all kinds of ways, and then search that out. Right? Search out what God has done in this world. Search it out, and then look around to see if anybody else is interested in the same thing. Right? Oh, you too, see the same truth. Great. Let's pursue that together. Let's meet up. Let's talk about it. This is Lewis's brutally honest advice for us. This is from his book in Four Loves. He says, "We picture lovers face to face, but friends side by side, their eyes looking ahead. That is why those pathetic people who simply want friends can never make any." He's talking about now again. The very condition of having friends, he says, is that we should want something else beside friends. There would be nothing for friendship to be about, and friendship must be about something. Those who have nothing can share nothing. Those who are going nowhere can have no travelers, no fellow travelers. Right? So you can't just desire to have friends, right? You have to desire something else that the friendship can be about. And so that's Lewis's just brutal advice. Anyways, he had some other brutal advice in the Four Loves. You can read it. I'm not going to go into it, but and I would also add to that. This is related to the second one. That we should be unashamedly about something, right? Unashamedly about something, provided it's good, right? Provided that it's lawful, that it can be carried out with Christian love, right? Be unashamedly about something. And here's a great quote out of the Screwtape Letters, where Screwtape, right? Screwtape is a demon. If you don't know, he's a demon who's writing letters to his protege. Right? I don't have that backwards. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he's writing letters to his protege about the patient and giving counsel about it. So he's a bad guy. But he expresses his suspicion, his demonic suspicion of disinterested and simple enjoyments. This is what he says. He says, "The man who truly and disinterestedly, right, that is, without selfish bias or a care for others' opinions, right, the man who truly and disinterestedly enjoys any one thing in the world for its own sake and without caring twopence what other people say about it is, by that very fact, forearmed against some of the demons, subtlest modes of attack. Now, you should always try to make the patient abandon the people or food or books that he really likes in favor of the best people, the right food, the important books. I have known a human defended from strong temptations to social ambition by a still stronger taste for tripe and onions." Right? I don't know what tripe is, but it's just great, right? You need to be unashamedly about something. Don't like stuff because other people like it, right? If you see something glorious in this world, and again, it's full of glory, love it, right? Enjoy it. Praise God for it. And be unashamed in that enjoyment. And then who knows, right? Perhaps you'll find others that also share it and share that interest. And Lewis, I'm in the middle of his Surprised by Joy. I'd read it maybe 10 years ago. And this definitely marks Lewis's childhood, right? He just is so innocent in these really arcane desires and loves, and he has no friends that really enjoy it except his brother. But he's just unashamedly about these interests, and they consume him, and in the long run, they led him to God. Right? He would get these piercings of joy, as he would describe it, which would be a painful longing for a world beyond ours, for some, the greater source of all these things. And through that, the Lord led him to himself. And so I think this is really tied to his own conversion. You need to be unashamedly about something and enjoy it, not caring two pence, right? What others think. So don't go around simply looking for friends, and don't like stuff simply to impress the right people. And third and finally, remember that in the case of friendship, more is better. Right? More friends is better. Romantic love is exclusive, right? Rightly so. You can only be face to face with one person, right? Or you risk doing the opposite of going cross-eyed. Apparently, it's called wall-eyed. Right? You got one eye on that wall, one eye on that. So you run the risk of ruining your eyes. So don't do that. But friendship is enlarged, it's expanded with more and more folks that are truly interested in the same thing. Right? Of course, there's natural limits in that. There are natural exclusions. For of course, true friendship is only watered down when those joining that group or that friendship, when they don't actually share an interest in the object, but who are only driven by that inner ring passion. There's also the limits of your meeting place, right, of availability, of the work at hand, the ability to carry out the work, and so on and so forth. But all things considered, it's only expanded and made better when more and more join and pursue that interest together. So this is another quote from Lewis. He says, "In each of my friends," I think this is from Four Loves. He says, "In each of my friends, there is something that only some other friend can fully bring out. By myself, I am not large enough to call the whole man into activity. I want other lights than my own to show all his faces. Now that Charles is dead, I shall never again see Ronald's reaction to a specifically Carolyn or Charles-like joke. Far from having more of Ronald, having him to myself, now that Charles is away, I have less of Ronald. Hence, true friendship is the least jealous of loves. Two friends delight to be joined by a third, and three by a fourth, if only the newcomer is qualified to become a real friend. In this, friendship exhibits a glorious resemblance to heaven itself, where the very multitude of the blessed, which no man can number, increases the fruition which each has of God. For every soul, seeing him in her own way, doubtless communicates that unique vision to all the rest. The more we thus share the heavenly bread between us, the more we shall all have." Right? The more that are converted to see the glory of God, the more of God we have. Right? The more we get to tell, sing "Holy, holy, holy" to one another. The more voices there are, the more displaying of God's glory in different ways that we see Him. So I love that. That's always stuck with me ever since I read it. Friendship is only made better by adding, a fourth to the third and a fifth to the fourth. So, how can you win friends and be happy? Again, three things. First, put to death the passion to be on the inside, the inner ring passion, and die to the fear of missing out. Second, instead, be about something. Behold the glory of God in the world and search it out, and then look around to see who else is interested in that and pursue that glory together. And then third and finally, remember that more is better, right? Invite others into that to pursue that same good, because more means that you get more of the object, right? So that's how you do it. That's friendship, and I'll open it up now to you all. If you have any questions or maybe thoughts that you've had in the course of the talk that you'd like to share.